For the past few decades, we've been living in a golden age of brain science. We've built these incredible tools that let us literally peer inside the living mind, and they create these amazing light shows of neural activity. But the more we see, the more we're realizing we've basically been watching a shadow play. So today, we're going to go beyond that light show to explore the deeper and, frankly, stranger reality of how our brain actually works.
And look, this quest is nothing new. We have always been captivated by this 3-pound lump of matter between our ears that somehow creates our entire reality. I mean, it's arguably the most complex object in the entire known universe. And for the longest time, how it worked was a complete black box. So let's take a look at how we first started to peek inside.
You could really say that the story of modern neuroscience is the story of technology. Each new tool that came along gave us a completely new window into the brain. And the pace of discovery, well, it's been just breathtaking. So it all started with just identifying the basic building blocks, the neurons. Then these incredibly powerful microscopes showed us what they actually looked like, their intricate structure. By the 70s, we were getting the first kind of grainy, computer-assisted images. But the real game changer, the one piece of tech that put brain science on the map for everybody, that arrived in the 1990s, fMRI.
For the very first time, we could watch a living, thinking brain in something close to real time. By tracking blood flow, MRI showed us which parts of the brain light up when we do something or think something or feel something. It was just astonishing. It was like we could suddenly see thoughts happening.
And this is where we learned one of MRI's biggest lessons. We used to think in these really simple terms, like, oh, that's the fear center, or this is the memory center. But MRI showed us that's not how it works. At all. Any single experience, seeing a face, hearing a song, it ignites this rapid-fire sequence across tons of interconnected brain regions. It's not a solo performance, it's a full-on symphony.
And this new ability to actually see the brain change over time, well, it led to one of the most profound shifts in our understanding of ourselves. It completely blew up a century-old idea that the brain was fixed and unchangeable.
So the old idea was that by the time you're an adult, your brain is pretty much set in stone. The hardware is what it is, and from then on, it's just a slow decline. But the new reality, what we now call neuroplasticity, is just so much more exciting. Your brain is constantly remodeling itself based on your experiences. It's less like a computer and way more like a living city, always building new roads, rerouting traffic, and adapting.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. We can actually see it happening. Take London taxi drivers. They spend years memorizing the city's 25,000 streets, and when they do, the part of their brain for spatial memory, the hippocampus, it physically grows larger. Or students learning to juggle, they literally build more insulated wiring, what we call white matter, in their brains. The big takeaway here is this: experience doesn't just happen in your brain, it actively physically changes it.
Okay, so we've got these incredible imaging tools. We know the brain can literally change its own structure. It really seems like we're right on the verge of cracking the code, doesn't it? Well, this is where the story takes a really sharp turn. All this progress has actually revealed an even deeper mystery.
This is the question that's kind of haunting the frontiers of neuroscience right now. We can generate just mountains of data. We can create these absolutely stunning visuals of brain activity, but we still can't answer the most basic question of all. What are the fundamental principles here? How does this whole thing work?
And what's so interesting about this is that the biggest roadblocks aren't about needing more data or better scanners. They're conceptual. We've been trying to understand the brain using borrowed ideas and metaphors from computer science, from physics, from psychology. And our models just can't seem to replicate one of the brain's most basic features, its constant, self-sustaining internal activity. It really turns out our most fundamental assumptions might just be wrong.
So to see what this really means, we have to start rethinking something as fundamental as the nature of time itself inside the brain.
We usually think of brain activity like a musical score, right? A sequence of notes played at very precise moments in time. But what if that's the completely wrong way to look at it? A new perspective is suggesting it's less about the timing of each individual note and way more about how patterns of activity, kind of like sound waves, travel through the physical space of the brain. Space and time aren't separate things, they're woven together.
So what this means is that when scientists look really closely, they find the brain seems to care way more about the physical order in which neurons fire than the precise timing. Imagine a cascade of dominoes. The sequence in which they fall is fixed, right? That's what matters. But the speed can vary. The brain seems to operate on a really similar principle, relying on these spatial relationships, not on some external clock.
And once you get your head around that the brain has its own internal rules of space and time, it leads to an even more radical, more profound idea about what the brain is actually doing all day long.
Just look at this number, 85 to 95%.
That's the estimated slice of your brain's massive energy budget that is spent on internally generated, self-organized activity. Activity that has absolutely nothing to do with what you're seeing or hearing or doing in the outside world right now.
This completely flips the script on how we used to think the brain worked. We assumed the brain was mostly quiet, just kind of waiting for a stimulus to come along so it could react. The truth seems to be the exact opposite. Your brain is running its own unbelievably complex show, a whole universe of internal activity 24/7. The outside world doesn't direct the show, it just slightly nudges the plot from time to time.
So this brings us to the real frontier. This quote from the neuroscientist Per Roland, it just cuts right to the chase. If the brain is this self-organizing system, then the real mystery isn't about mapping which area lights up for what. It's about figuring out the physical rules, the biophysical mechanisms that decide how far these waves of electrical activity, these depolarizations and spikes, spread through your central nervous system and how they shape themselves.
So we started this journey by seeing the brain as a machine that just reacts to the world. Then we moved to seeing it as this dynamic, plastic structure that is changed by the world. And now, we're on the cusp of understanding it as an autonomous universe that, for the most part, creates its own reality. Learning to finally speak its true language isn't just going to solve a scientific puzzle, it could fundamentally change what we even understand it means to be human.